Hey, what's going on guys? Kobe here and welcome back to another video. Today, what we're doing is ranking the signings made, the transfer window basically made by each club out of 10. And, we're going to go through each sign and see what was good, what was bad about their transfer window, and why they got the rating that they did. So we're going to go from A to obviously Z in terms of the list of Premier League when they first start off, so ABC, etc, etc. So that means we start off with Arsenal. Now, I don't know, Arsenal had a strange transfer window, so I've gave them an 8 out of 10. Now, the reason being is because, I think they spent so long looking like they were going to sign nobody. They had Xhaka in very early, and it looked as though that was going to be it for most of the transfer window. And I think they only acted in getting Mustafi because of the fact that they had to. Great signing. I think he will be a really good signing for them. Him and Koscielny could form a really, really good partnership. But I felt like it was out of necessity rather than they wanted to get a better player. I'm unsure on Perez. From what I've seen, he took a while to get going. I think he's 28 or 29. So he's been around a lot. He's kind of like a Vardy player where he's only just getting good now, basically. Well, I say getting good, but only really flourishing now. So I'm a bit unsure on that one. That's why, they haven't got 9 for me. The outgoings, I think, have been really poor. Look at the players that went, and they got nothing for anyone. I think, obviously, Campbell going out on loan, I think that's a bit of a bad move. I think he could have been worthwhile. Chambers, again, could have been worthwhile keeping all of that. I don't know why they didn't send Holding out on loan instead of Chambers. Chambers is a player who's been there for a while. And, Ganabi, they've lost him. Didn't really ever give him a chance. Wilshere obviously left on loan as well, and so did Szczesny. So it's an 8 out of 10. It was overall, in the end, a good transfer window for Arsenal. They kind of replaced what they needed, but that was about it. Next up, we move to Bournemouth. Now, I think they had a really good transfer window. For a team like them, some of the signings that they pulled off were really, really good. I was really impressed. So I gave them a 9 out of 10. Now, you're thinking, oh, look at the signings. They weren't as good as Arsenal's. Why are we mentioning this? But I think overall for Burnley, for Bournemouth even, these were actually good signings. Losing Richie, I think, was a loss, but they got a really good fee for him. I think it was about 10 to 15 million? I can't sure. It was in that bracket anyway. Wilshere coming in on loan is obviously a fantastic signing. But the one I would like to point out is Mark Wilson. I think that is a fantastic signing. They signed him for £2 million. He's got Premier League experience. He's a solid player. They really need to improve their defence. And they brought in a centre-back who potentially could be great in terms of for them. I think he's a really good sign, a strong signing. Jordan Ives got huge potential. He just needs to fulfill it. And same with Brad Smith, actually, at left-back. He could do a really good job for them. So I think they signed what they needed. They obviously replaced Matt Ritchie with Jordan Ives. They brought in a left-back, which was kind of what they were missing. A centre-back as well. And then obviously that Wilshere signing put them up to a 9 as well. So overall, a really good transfer window for Bournemouth. Next up, we move to Burnley, a team that I think needed to sign a fair few. Don't get me wrong, they had a really good team anyway. They came up and they look really strong in the Championship. They look like one of the better teams down there. But I've only given them a 6 out of 10. I think they needed more than what they did. The only person actually really coming in that's going to improve them is Defoe. I think he's a great sign, absolutely fantastic sign. I don't know how they got him, but they've done excellent in getting him. Jeff Hendrick, if he shows the form that he did in the Euros, will also be a great signing. But just to get those two are the only ones actually worth mentioning. Just to get those two, it's just not good enough for me. I felt like they needed a bit more. Obviously, they are a great team anyway, but in terms of ranking just their transfer window, it wasn't really good enough. Obviously, they lost Joey Barton, as you can see on the completed out section. They already lost him anyway. So Defoe was kind of like the replacement. So they only technically really signed Hendrick as one player. And it just isn't good enough. Goodmanson may be a good signer, but again, he wasn't really shining that much for Charlton. Had a decent Euros, a lot like Hendrick. So, yeah, Burnley for me will get a 6 out of 10. Obviously, guys, by the way, this is just my own opinion, so don't get too hurt by, me saying this. You can have a totally different opinion. But, yeah, 6 out of 10 for Burnley. Next up, we come to Chelsea. Now, obviously second, really big club. I've gave them a 9 out of 10. I think Chelsea basically signed what they really needed. So they signed a left-back in Alonso, although I don't think he's good enough. That's kind of one of the blights in it. I don't think Marcus Alonso's good enough. He played for Bolton and he played for Sunderland, and he wasn't exactly absolutely amazing, if that makes sense. So unless he's really got a lot better, I'm not too sure on that one. He may prove me wrong and be absolutely amazing for Chelsea, but for what they paid, which I think was about £25 million, that is incredible. Batshuayi really takes the heat off Costa. I think that's a really smart signing. Obviously, they had Remy, but they've sent him out on loan, so they got Costa and Batshuayi. I haven't really seen him too much, but I think, a player of his goal scoring record for Marseille, he will end up being really good. He obviously is young as well, so a lot of time left. N'Golo Kante is absolutely incredible. What a signing that could be. Him and Matic holding, I can't really see many teams going past them, to be honest. That is incredible. And then obviously David Luiz returning to Stamford Bridge. Seemed like a bit of a desperate one, but he knows the club, he knows the Premier League. It's a smart sign, and they've made 20 million because I think PSG signed him for 50. The players going out, they got 8 million for Digibodley. I think they paid about that to get him. Salah is a disappointment for me, though. I really want to see him in the Prem. He has confirmed deal to Roma. That's now a done deal. Not sure what the fee was, but they've spent a lot. That is the only issue I would say about Chelsea, and that's why I gave them a 9. They've ended up paying I think Alonso was 25 million, so it's about 115 million on players, and that includes the Eduardo fee as well, because I don't know what he was. I think he was about 5-10 mil. It's just incredible, that amount of money to only get 8 million back. So, and that, mind you, that doesn't include Salah's fee. Salah may have been about 15. So yeah, they spent really, really heavily. I'm just guessing in terms of how much Salah would have got, but it's a lot of money to spend. Even so, though, they do still get a 9 out of 10 for me. Really, really good signings. Next up, we go to Crystal Palace. They are our next team that we're going to run through. Now, I've gave them a grade out of 9. 9 out of 10 is a really strong grade. Now, the reason why, I think Benteke will be a great signing. I think he will be absolutely fantastic for Crystal Palace. They play with wingers, they play with that width, they play with pace. So players who go beyond the striker, I think he'll bang them in. That's what I'm going to say for Benteke. I think he is really good. Great firepower for them. I think Kabay, I didn't know I was alone. I think that's a mistype on that one. Mandanda, proven goalkeeper. Played for Marseille for God knows how long, but he is proven at the highest level. Tompkins, I think, is a decent signing, although I do think they've overpaid. Bit worried about the defence still. That's why they do only get a 9. Townsend, it could be a really, really good sign, and that's a smart bit of business because they sold Balassi for 28, so they gained 15 million right there. Obviously losing Adebayor, no loss there. Chamak again, no loss. They got about 10 million for Gale as well, so I think overall they've done really well. They've spent a lot, but at the same time they've got a lot back for players that I don't think were really worth that much. So yeah, 9 out of 10 for Crystal Palace. Next up is Everton. Now, Everton, a bit of a strange one. I couldn't really decide. I've given them an 8.5. I'm not too sure. I think they've overpaid on Balassi, I'm going to say that much. But the rest of the signings are pretty decent. I'm not convinced by Balassi. I don't think his stats in terms of goals and stuff like that really doesn't add up to 28 million. Gueye is a great signer from Aston Villa, 7.1 million. I think he had the second most interceptions after Kante last season, so that's a really good signing. And I think robbing Man City for £47.5 million is a great bit of business as well. And they replaced them with a veteran defender in Ashley Williams, yes, but he does know the Prem and he is a really good centre-back. So, yeah, I think 8.5. The only thing missing is maybe that actual first choice goalkeeper that they really need. And obviously they kept hold of Lukaku and Barkley as well, which is great news. Next up, we go to Hull City, probably the most disappointing team in terms of how many transfers they got and stuff like that. Just not good enough, really not good enough. Not enough players coming in and not good enough. Overall, really poor. I've given them a 5 out of 10. Really, really not enough. Although they have been playing really well as a team, I think they will struggle. I just can't see it happening. You know, they've signed David Marshall, a new keeper, good signing, and then Mason as well. I think will do all right, but again, I think they've overpaid heavily. 13 million for Ryan Mason is absolutely ridiculous. Sonny Aluko losing him, bit of a loss, but not much. Diame is a big loss. He was kind of like their powerhouse in midfield last season. So yeah, it's just overall, it's just really, really not good enough. Overpaid on Mason, not enough done, not good enough either. Yeah, 5 out of 10. Next up is Leicester City. I'm going to give them an 8.5 before I even start. Possibly 9. I'm not too. No, I'm going to say 8.5. I think, you know, they've done really, really well in keeping all of the players that they did. Obviously, Kante is a huge loss, but they did get a really, really nice fee for him. Bringing in, I'm not sure on Luis Hernandez. I've never seen him. I don't know. I just don't know what to say about him. Mendy is Kante's replacement. I think he could be a really good signing. Ranieri knows him from his time at AS Monaco. Musa looks like he could be an incredible signing for that fee. If you look at that fee compared to what Hull paid for Mason, that is incredible. 30 million Hull paid for Ryan Mason. Leicester got Ahmed Musa for 15. That's how good that signing is for me. I think he's going to be excellent. Slimani, proven goal scorer for Sporting Lisbon, although I do think 29 million is a heavy price to pay. They've also got a really good backup keeper in Ziela. The only thing I would say about Leicester, and the reason why I'm going to stick at 8.5, they didn't really sign another centre-back, which is what they really needed. I think Luis Hernandez is a centre-back, but I think they could have done with another one as well, just in case more than anything. But overall, you know, just the fact that they kept Vardy, Mahrez, Drinkwater, everyone still there apart from Kante, they've done really well. And yeah, 8.5 out of 10 for me. Next up is Liverpool. My actual team, so I'm going to try and be as unbiased as possible. I've gave Liverpool an 8 out of 10. Now, the reason being is more the fact that they recoup so much money as well in terms of, you know, obviously the actual net spend. I think they only net spend of 5 million, which is really good. They brought in Karius, an actual goalkeeper who can play well instead of Mignolet. I think that could be a really good sign. Obviously, he's injured currently, but he should replace Mignolet when he comes back. And he was one of the better German goalkeepers in their league last season, so could be a good sign in there. Ragnar Klavan is next up. He's done really well so far. Like, I know we played, you know, Burnley and conceded, played Arsenal and conceded, but we've always conceded as a team, so I'm not going to blame a new centre-back for that. I think Klavan, you know, everyone thought, what the fuck is this guy? You know, he's like 30. We've signed for hardly anything. What's going on? But he's turned out to be a really, really good player. I think he still will only be a backup to either like Matip and Lovren and stuff like that, but I think he could be a really good signing. Mane, I think, is an absolute excellent signing. It showed how badly we miss Mane against Burnley. We literally looked horrible as a team going forward. Mane absolutely destroyed Monreal against Arsenal. I think he was a really good signing. And for 34 million, yes, it's a lot. And obviously, I'm going to say with most players, it is overpriced. But then Benteke pretty much paid for Mane. That just shows how good that bit is. Matip for free is an excellent deal. I think he's going to be really, really good. Obviously got injured again, a lot like Karius actually, but from what I've seen, he's a ball-playing centre-back, big, tall guy. He could do really well. The only blight in terms of the signings coming in is how much we paid Newcastle for Wijnaldum. Why have Newcastle managed to mug everyone off in terms of like prices for their players? That is a joke, paying 25 million for Wijnaldum. I think he is a good player, but for that price, that is way too much. I would have paid about 15 million and I would have been happy at that price. He could still be a great player for Liverpool, though. I'm not too sure. Next up is the outs, and this is why Liverpool stick at like an 8. Joe Allen getting 13 million for him, really good bit of business. Benteke, obviously that fee coming back is what we paid, but that ended up paying for like a Mane, so that's great. Judd Knight, we've got 15 million, that is a hell of a lot of money. Even like a 4 million for Sinclair, like 5 for Skirtle, 6 for Brad Smith. It ended up coming back, and I think according to Sky, it was a case of being about 5 million net spend, which is what we were like one of the only clubs to get really close to that. In fact, we might have actually got 5 mil more than what we paid. But yeah, that's why they get an 8 out of 10. They needed a bit of pace, they got that with Mane. They needed a new centre-back, they got it with Matip. And they needed a new goalkeeper, they got it with Karius. So, really good bit of business, 8 out of 10. Next up is Manchester City. They spent a hell of a lot, but I've given them a 9 out of 10. They made some great signings. Bravo obviously coming in, although Hart is a bit sketchy, but he is still a great goalkeeper, so him coming in. Gundogan is a great signing. Nolito looks really sharp. Sané is one for the future, and he's a really good signing. Obviously signing Stones as well, who I'm still unsure of in terms of Stones. I still think he's a bit of a worry, but it does kind of resolve their centre-back situation as such, so they could have like Stones and Otamendi, or Stones and Company, or Company and Otamendi. There's 3 really, really good centre-backs there. Obviously, he wants ball-playing centre-backs, so John Stones fits that perfectly. In terms of like the only blight, I think is the outs. Obviously, Nasri went on loan, Hart went on loan, Mangala went on loan. It's going to cost them a hell of a lot to pay like at least a portion of their wages. I don't know what type of deals went on, but usually on loans, like the parent club will pay some of the loan wages. So don't know how many wages they have to pay, but that is the only blight. I think they could have got rid of some dead wood and they didn't. But yeah, overall, really good summer still. 9 out of 10. Next up is Manchester United. I think they've done really well. I'm actually giving Manchester United a 10 out of 10. I think they've done fantastically. Now, let's rewind to a couple of months ago. Everyone was like, oh God, Man U are finished. That is it. They've ruined themselves. That can't be good type thing. And then Mourinho comes in. He clears out so much dead wood. You know, Will Keane, not good enough. Donald Love, not good enough. McNair, not good enough. Powell, not good enough. Valdez, all these players that they didn't need. He just said, I don't want you, you're gone. So not good enough. They brought in some amount of money. I think probably only about 10, 20 million, something like that. But then it's the signings that they made that make their transfer window so good. Eric Bailey, great signing. He looks absolutely fantastic for Man U. Him and Blind actually form a really good partnership. Yeah, Bailey looks really good for 30 million. That you can't really argue with that. Getting Ibrahimovic for free, paying nothing for Ibrahimovic is crazy. He's already shown he's still got that class. Although he hasn't featured much so far, Mkhitaryan is a really good signing. Don't even know what they paid for him. It must have been about 30 million, but it is a fantastic signing. He's got so much quality. And then bringing back that powerhouse in Pogba, world record fee. Yes, that is a lot of money especially for a player that they used to own. That is mental that they just spent 90 million on a player that they used to have and they let him go for free. But it's still something that they really needed, was that great centre mid. So yeah, 10 out of 10 for Man U. Can't really argue with that. Next up is Middlesbrough, and unlike the other promoted clubs, I think Middlesbrough done actually quite well. I gave them an 8 out of 10. They look poor to begin with in terms of like how they came up. I don't think they had that much of a good team. But you know, they've signed like really well. I think Negredo is a fantastic signing. Yes, he's only on loan, but it's a really good signing for me. I think he could do really well. De Roon in midfield, he could be a really good player. I've seen a little bit of him in Serie A. He looked really strong. Fisher from Ajax, again, really good fee. To get him for 4 million, that is crazy. Yes, he is young and he doesn't have much experience, but I think he could be a surprise. Barragan is a decent player. He used to play for Liverpool. I think he's a right back, and for 3 mil, you can't really argue again. No, not much of a risk in terms of how Middlesbrough have done this, but they've done really well. Chambers on loan, great signing. If they put him at centre back and partner him with someone decent, that could see a really good partnership form. Yeah, Victor Valdez as well, a goalkeeper with real pedigree. That is really good. Yeah, so 8 out of 10 for me for Middlesbrough. Next up is Southampton, the team notorious for settling their players, gets a ranking now, and they go a 7 out of 10 for me. No, they didn't sign Buffal for 1.6 million, because that would have been like a 10 out of 10. They actually signed him for like 16, was it? Or it's like 21, something around that. I think it might have been 21.6, so that's a little bit of a glitch. But in terms of why I ranked Southampton as I did, they lost 3 really good players. Mane, Pele, and Wanyama, like 3 players that were right in the heart of their team last season. They've only really replaced one for me. I think, well, they've kind of replaced one and added another player as well. They've replaced Mane with Buffal and obviously brought in Redmond as well. Yeah, it's just not good enough, like selling your players all the time and trying to replace them on the cheap. Buffal, I think he'd be a really good sign. I think he could be fantastic. Apparently he's got temperament issues, but he could be the next Mane potentially. Højbjerg is meant to be Wanyama's replacement, but he's a cast-off from Bayern Munich, so we're not too sure on him. He could be great and just didn't get the chance. We shall see on that one. And McCarthy's a backup goalkeeper, so it's good. It's probably a 7.5. I'd go, actually. 7.5 for Southampton. They've replaced a few, but they've lost heavily. Next up is Stoke City. They get an 8 out of 10. Now, the screen doesn't show it justice. Now, they looked poor to begin with, but the Boney and Martin's Indy loan deals at the end have really saved them. Jarlin's a really good signing, but they've kind of got like a whole new spine. Boney up front, Jarlin in midfield, and Martin's Indy at the back could potentially be great. Obviously, it'll be like Allen and Imbula at centre mid, Boney up front, Martin's Indy and Shawcross at the back. They are fantastic signings. So overall, it's quite quiet, but it's still an 8 out of 10. Next up is Sunderland. They were quite poor, to be honest. They get 6.5. And Dong is a huge risk of 13.6 million. Dishobodgley, again, 8 million risk because he's never played in the Prem. Love and McNair aren't really good enough. They've lost experience in Wes Brown. I just thought they could have done a lot more in terms of transfers to help them on. So I'm kind of like going to speed through the next few and try and get this done. I realise it's dragging on a little bit. So yeah, Sunderland not good enough. 6.5. Next up is Swansea. They get a 6 for me. They lost a lot of players and didn't really replace them. A lot of players got released. A lot of players got sold. For example, Paloschi. Williams is a huge, huge loss for them. They've signed Leroy Fair. Nice little signing. They signed Borja Gonzalez, who I've never heard of, for a lot of money. But yeah, they needed more. Again, a lot like Sunderland, like Hull. I think they needed more to try and help them this season. Next up is Tottenham. They get a 9. They had good money coming in. So Chadley, getting 30 million for Chadley's great. Getting 30 million for Mason's really, really good. And also getting 9 million for Pritchard as well. Really, really good transfers out. That's why they get a 9. They also made great signings as well. They signed Wanyama, fantastic signing. Janssen, really, really good. Sissoko, a good signing, but I think that's the only blight, really, is that they overpaid on Sissoko heavily. 30 million, again, I don't understand how Newcastle mugged off two great teams in Liverpool and Tottenham for so much money. A combined fee of 55 million for Wijnaldum and Sissoko is crazy. But yeah, overall, Tottenham had a really good transfer window. 9 out of 10, really solid. Really, really good improvements. Watford are next up. They get an 8.5. Lots of deals coming in and out. They got rid of a bit of dead weight at the end there. Nyom, a little bit of a loss. I think he's a quite good player. Vidra, getting 8 million for him is really, really good. Not really Prem standard. Same with Abdi as well. But it's more the signs that came in. Dejai Dibjebe, if I can't even say his name, I think he could be a really good sign. I think he's a centre mid. Kabasele, a good centre back. Okaka, an Italy international up front. And Sinclair, again, a little bit of a steal for 4 million, a youngster from Liverpool. But the one that's actually not even on there, and that is Pereira. That's why they're an 8.5. That guy is such a beast, both on FIFA and in real life. To get him to Watford is crazy. They've done really, really well. 8.5. Next up is West Brom. A bit of a disappointment. I give them a 7 out of 10. Not really good enough for what they needed. Chadley, good signing for 13 million. Nyom, really good signing as well, but after that, it's just not good enough. They lost Sessegnon, he got released. They lost Chester. They lost Anichibi, he also got released. They lost Gamboa to Celtic for a undisclosed fee. Again, it's just not good enough from West Brom. They could have done with a bit more. And finally, we end on West Ham. I've given them a 9.5. I don't know. I don't know if 9.5 or 9. I'm going to go 9.5. I think they made some really smart moves. Feguli for free is a fantastic move. I can't really fault that one. Manuel Lanzini, finally getting him on a permanent deal. A lot of clubs are actually interested in him for 9.4 million. Really good signing. Masuaku, not sure on him. He had a horrible time against Sterling, against Manchester City. Nordveit, again, I think he was for free. I don't know why it says undisclosed. I think he's pretty sure he's for free. But yeah, overall, really good signs. They signed Arbeloa as well. That kind of suits them because he can play both right and left back. Gökhan Toure as well, he came in. Zaza, who's not even on there, I think they completed the deal for him for 24 million. So 9.5 million, some good signings in there. A lot like for free for Feghouli is fantastic. And they also got 10 million for Tompkins, which isn't too bad at all. So yeah, 9.5 for West Ham, but those are the ratings, guys. Sorry it's a bit of a long video, but let's try and get 10 likes on this. And I shall see you in the next video. Peace.